What's good, everybody? I'm Keandre. This is Hoop Intellect, and welcome back to the Hoop Intellect podcast, episode 4. We are officially back, and this should start, the more consistent episodes going forward. About to change the background and everything, get a few more upgrades in terms of desk and all those kind of things very soon. So it should look a lot nicer on camera. But if you're listening on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I appreciate you guys for that. Keep sharing, keep liking, keep leaving reviews and all that good stuff. But yeah, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about all things Summer League. I know a lot of people have been wanting my opinion on it. Starting with some all Summer League teams. Now there's 21 people on the teams, 3 7-person teams. I just decided to do it like that because it's Summer League, and who cares? There's no rhyme or reason to it. I think they had 7 people on their first team and then 5 on the second, and there was no explanation for that at all. I'm sure there's probably a voting thing that happened, but they got who they wanted to put on there. And there's no historical bounds that says you need to, put a certain amount of people on here. So we're just going to do it this way. But after that, we'll do a Q&A, some of those questions that you guys asked last week. I really planned on doing a Q&A while I was in Vegas. In the hotel room, the setup and everything, I had somebody to help me out too. Things, just the grind of Summer League, everything was going on. Knowing that I would have had to spend time to edit that while I was there, I just didn't have the energy. By the time we got back to the hotel and then, or got food and all that kind of stuff, it was pretty late, and I knew that the way that I edit, the way that I create content, it was going to take me, several hours into the night, over probably multiple days for me to really push the content out. And I didn't want to do that and still try to be present, still try to have an opinion, still have some sort of insight on the games that I was watching. So we weren't able to do that. I don't know, sometimes I just have these ideas that I'm not really fully able to execute. I wanted to do daily vlogs out there, or at least some kind of daily update, but that would have been so difficult to do, and the Wi-Fi there was not good. I would have had to wait there, or if something might have gone wrong, you just push the button to upload it at a certain time, but then when you upload it, something goes wrong, you weren't there. Yeah, so all those kind of things just kind of delayed that process a little bit, but it was a good time, had a lot of fun, met a lot of good people. Those that I didn't get to meet, I'm really making it a point to do that next year. Certain people came in on different days. Certain people had other things to do, this and that, the third. So hopefully next year we don't have to wear masks. Everybody will be a lot more recognizable and things like that. So that one should be really fun. Not that this one wasn't, but the environment should only grow from what we had this year. But yeah, I think, we'll talk a little bit more about certain things that pop up as we talk about certain players and certain teams. I want to mention, so after we do the Summer League teams, I will talk about some of the other noteworthy or notable players and teams and prospects that I didn't get to on those first Summer League teams. Right now, we'll go ahead and get into it right after this break. Support for the Hoop Intellect podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming in the entire world. They offer precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and they just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. So what I need you to do right now is go ahead and join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code HI at manscaped.com. Go ahead and enter that code, and you can just thank me later. Now, Manscaped engineered the ultimate body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and an incredibly comfortable grooming experience. Their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. Now, like me, you can feel confident in not nicking yourself up. Manscaped went ahead and sent over a cool little package with, all the goodies inside, all the tools inside, and I gotta say, these are just simply the best out there. And what you can do is go ahead and go try them for yourself. Now go ahead over to manscaped.com Get 20% off and free shipping with the code HI at checkout. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use that code HI. It's Hoop Intellect HI. Just the HI. Unlock your confidence with the new Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped today. And don't say I never hooked you up. Don't say I never hooked you up. So, starting with the first team, these are in no order. This isn't like a, 1 through 21 or 1 through 7 on the first team or anything like that. The first person that I wanted to mention for the All-Summer League first team is Tre Jones of the San Antonio Spurs. Now, he didn't make any of their official first or second teams, which I thought was a travesty. The dude played 4 games, so you can't say that he didn't play enough games to be on this list. He was 4th in scoring with 22.8 points per game, averaged nearly 5 rebounds, 6 assists, shot 51% from the field, 36 from 3, 90% from the line. Had that 34-9-8 game against Charlotte, hit the game winner. I mean, like those moments, what I just told you alone, that's a first team summer league type of resume, and he didn't make either of the teams, so I thought that was strange. He's really improved, become a lot more comfortable as a shooter, as a scorer in general, a lot more fluid as an athlete, wildly more comfortable finishing with his left hand. If you just go look back at his college tape, especially his freshman year, but even his sophomore year when he took a lot more shots, had a lot more freedom offensively, that was a big thing for him, finishing at the rim. But now the left hand is easy, with English on it. But yeah, I really liked what I saw from Tre Jones. He was one of the best players, and he really deserves this first team spot for me. The second guy who also didn't make a team, but maybe a little bit more understandably, he only played 2 games, is Desmond Bane. He's 3rd in scoring, 24 a night, 48% from the field, 69% from 3. I mean, dude is automatic on 6 attempts. He's ready to contribute. I think he might be nearly a starter level guard in this league at this point. On both ends, brought it, energy, leadership for that Memphis team. What else is there to say about Desmond Bane other than he's just really good? And you could just tell, like, he's just a level a bit above the rest of the players that were playing. And, you put him next to the Jaws and the Jaren Jacksons, those type of guys, and take a little bit of the attention off of him, he's going to thrive even more. So, really excited to see him in his sophomore season. Third player, another second-year guy, is Tyrese Maxey of the Philadelphia 76ers. He was 2nd in scoring, also played 2 games. 26 points, shot 50%. Struggled a little bit from 3. Not that he's ever been really a knockdown shooter or anything like that, but I think, he'll be fine going forward. Averaged 5.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, throwing 2 steals and a block. I mean, he was everywhere. He was all over the court, made winning plays, took a lot of those young Philly guards under his wing. You could just tell, like, Maxey's really been working. He's really been building on that scoring talent. And he was confident. I like to see that. He took about 20 shots a game, which, if you're a Sixers fan, that's really what you want from him. He's not going to do that in the league, but I really like his fit next to Joel Embiid going forward. Who knows what happens with Ben Simmons, but a guard that has his skill set makes a lot of sense next to a star player like Embiid. Now, the fourth player is the first rookie that we're going to mention so far. Is Cam Thomas. I mean, Cam Thomas is built for the summer league. Like, this is his stage for sure. When things, you don't have all the sets, everybody's not on the same page in terms of help defense. Everybody's not on the same level in terms of, talent or potential. Things go a little bit haywire. Everybody doesn't know the plays, doesn't know the sets. Some people flew in. Some people had, COVID protocols. Doesn't matter. Cam Thomas, you give him the ball, he's going to score buckets. And that's exactly what he did. Even as they brought him off the bench early on. I know we were talking about it in the comments, some of the rationale behind bringing him off the bench was just getting him ready for the regular season. And to that, I'm just like, this is summer league. Like, none of this really matters. I mean, how much is he going to really gain off of coming off of the bench for Brandon Knight and David Duke. When you have a whole training camp ahead of you, and he'll be doing it for Kyrie, KD, and Harden. Like, I don't know. I just felt like he should have been starting, playing even more minutes than he did. I think he played, about 29 a night, but just give him the least. But that's neither here nor there. He still did his thing. 27 a game, like I said, 42% from the field, 36 from the line. Got to the line 10 times a game. I mean, he's extremely good at that. He's going to score buckets in the league, that's for sure. I think the next level is just the rest of his game, making those extra passes. He had a few moments. I think he had 4 assists in one game. Has some moments where you're like, okay, there's a little something there. Still has some issues in shot selection, tunnel vision. It'll be 18 on the clock, takes a step back. Some of those things he'll have to cut out, especially playing with a team with the expectations of the Nets, and the type of players that they already have on their squad. But overall, he was terrific. Hit those 2 huge shots against Washington. The one-legged 3, like, that's just Cam Thomas. No matter what happens in his career, that's always gonna be a moment that you'll remember from him. Yeah, he's definitely deserving of this first team spot. A few times I was sitting near his family, and that's really dope to see how they support him, how they get frustrated at certain things that go on the court. That was fun for me to experience. But the next player that we're going to talk about, another first year player, Davion Mitchell. He doesn't have the raw numbers that'll wow you, but he was great. Like, absolute menace defensively, set his teammates up well. He still has a ton of things to work on in terms of being a point guard and handling the ball, but playing with Fox and Halliburton, he probably won't have to worry about that as much. But, overall, I really liked what I saw from him, and he was a huge reason why they won. I mean, I know everybody's going to look for who scored the 25 points a game or who had 12 assists in a game, but Davion affected winning in a big way on a team that doesn't have any other, like, blue chip type of prospects. Bunch of second-round picks, a bunch of, high-level undrafted guys, high-energy guys, but Davion was the glue to that team, put a lot of his teammates in position, and just absolutely hounded people defensively. And that's what you want from him. Straight off of winning the national championship, he comes in, wins the Summer League championship after their rocky start in the California Classic, and turn it around in Vegas. So I was really happy to see him succeed, have success this early on, and I can't wait to see what they do in Sacramento this year. We got 2 more players on the first team. The first being Jalen Green. Now, he only played about 2.5 games, I think, before he exited the game. But those first 2 games, what more could you ask from him? The shot making, ridiculous. If we're talking about, there's maybe some other people who had better games, who had better performances, but in terms of like showing your entire potential in your game, I don't think there was anybody who performed on the level that Jalen Green did in his games. Statistically, 20 points a game, 51% from the field, 52.6% from 3 on 6 attempts, shot 93% from the line. Just seeing his journey over his last couple years in high school into the G League and then into the Summer League and hopefully now into the NBA, it's been really fun to watch his development, and especially as a shooter. Like, I know it's a really small sample size, but he was ridiculous, both athletically, defensively. He was really solid, which you like to see, because that's been, something that's going to take him to the next level if he can just be, serviceable there. And he was, for the most part. Their entire team was pretty rock solid. But yeah, in general, Jalen Green, terrific. That's why he was top 3 consensus guy for most people, and hopefully he can carry this on into the NBA. But yeah, there was, even if you watch the video, you could hear me in the background of some of those clips I put in there. But like the step back over a Okoro, like I was like, my goodness, this is fun to watch, one, and ridiculous that he can do this at his age. I think he's getting a lot of buckets in the league for a long time. Not that wasn't already the case before seeing Summer League, but just, getting to see it against high level competition in the Rockets uniform, with the fans. You got to put some weight into that. So Jalen Green takes another first team spot. The last person, Trey Murphy III. He was a monster on both ends. He earned himself the first team spot. He was lights out from three, shooting 44% on 6 attempts. He was just suffocating defensively with his length, his versatility, ability to guard multiple positions at a high level. It was just a really good all-around effort for him in his first game action. And the thing that excites me the most about him, and it would if I was a Pelicans fan, is that his role is not going to change in the NBA. Like, he's only going to have more and better opportunities alongside Zion and Brandon Ingram. Just taking the spot up threes, attacking the rack, attacking closeouts when you can, scoring in transition a little bit. Like, those things are going to be there. He did a little bit, off the dribble, made some plays that, we didn't see a ton of at Virginia, but that's kind of just how the nature of how Virginia works. But when he gets to the Pelicans, official team, he's going to have ample opportunities playing off of them. And as long as he, keeps being this sniper that we've seen him be, sky's the limit for him as he continues to do that, continues to, be a star in his role there, and then possibly add to his game from there. But that's going to do it for the first team. So short little recap. That's Trey Jones, Desmond Bane, Tyrese Maxey, Cam Thomas, Davion Mitchell, Jalen Green, and Trey Murphy. Now on to the second team. Starting it off, we have Chris Duarte of the Indiana Pacers. They're a lottery pick. I mean, he was terrific on both ends. He played his game, created shots for himself. Hit several buzzer beaters. That was like crazy. He was doing it consistently. I can't remember how many he had. It was like, I think it was 3. But he was pulling that thing from deep, made plays defensively, and especially off the ball. And that was a big area that he excelled at in Oregon. He took that to the league immediately. And he looks every bit of the player who will immediately help Indiana. And that's a beautiful sight when you take a 24-year-old in the lottery. Hopefully Rick Carlisle trusts him from the jump. I think Duarte can help Indiana immediately, and he gets a second team spot for me. Moving along out to New York, we've got Obi Toppin, top 10 pick last year. He took care of business and looked much more comfortable on the perimeter. The jump shot looks more fluid. He put up 21 and 8 every time he stepped out there, and he was definitely one of the more impressive performers. I just like to see him excelling. It was a rough rookie season for him. Speed of the game, a little bit too fast for him. Defensively, still got work to do, obviously. That's always going to be, the area that he has to put a lot of emphasis on, just because naturally that's not his strong suit. But offensively, just becoming a little bit more perimeter oriented from his game at Dayton. I think that'll only help him going forward, especially playing alongside guys like Julius Randle, guys like Mitchell Robinson, and the rest of that roster. But if you're a Knicks fan, you got to be pleased with what Obi Toppin did. Definitely earned himself that second team spot for me. The next guy we're going to talk about is from Atlanta. That's Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson probably makes the first. He made their actual first team, but he makes the first team if we change up the game stipulations just a little bit, because, he was great. 3 double-doubles in 4 games, great performances each time out. And in person, he was one of the more impressive athletes, just combination of size, athleticism, explosiveness. It really popped off when you saw it in person. And I'm about 6'3", 6'4". I was standing when they were going through the, good game lines after the game or whatever. I was like, this dude is legitimately 6'10" for real. And he's moving faster than some of the guards. He had that dunk in transition on Duarte. Had several alley-oops throughout the week. There was this one play in the first game I remember. I can't remember if he got it on the perimeter or off of a cut, but he rose up, double clutched. I thought he was going to boom on the dude, but he double clutched, finished it with ease. Just the size, strength, body control, ability to make plays in transition for others. He's got a really good skill set, and at 20 for Atlanta going forward, that's a really good value pick for a guy that talented. Maybe he doesn't contribute a ton in year one, but going forward, as he continues to add to his game, continues to stretch out his game. What did he shoot from 3? He shot 41% he shot nearly 42% from 3-on-3 attempts. I mean, he shot 40% on low attempts at Duke, but if the shot can really be there consistently, I think he can. The sky's the limit for him. But yeah, definitely worth a second team spot. And I heard people during his first game, I heard people behind me. They were talking like, "Oh, he quit on Coach K." Like, I just like to see him succeed after that whole kind of situation. After the talk around him leaving Duke, making the best decision for himself and his family, and it looks like it's going to pay off. So shout out to Jalen Johnson for his summer league performance, and that has nothing to do with whether or not we look alike, and we are not the same dude, all right? But anyways, moving on, we have a guard out of Orlando, and that is Jalen Suggs, the number 5 pick in this draft. He was extremely impressive. He displayed all the parts of his game that warranted him going in the top 5 of the draft, and he just makes plays. Like, he's a big guard, a lot bigger in person, I'll definitely say that. He's a special athlete and has already made improvements to his handle and as a shooter, that really intrigued me. And I just think the Magic got the perfect guy to fall for them. There's no disrespect to Scotty Barnes, but I think this one might work out for the best for both of them. In the end, I like what Jalen Suggs can do here in Orlando. Him just being that lead guy in that sort of Drew Holiday type of mold. I think he's got a little bit more potential in terms of a lead ball handler, somebody who can make a little bit better decisions in that role. But, just making the defensive impact, the ability to affect multiple parts of the game without being a 25-point per game scorer, that's where I think Jalen Suggs is going to find he excels the most in the league. Speaking of Scotty Barnes, he more than proved himself worthy of being the 4th pick in the draft, and he garnered himself a second team spot. He was ridiculous on both ends, but especially defensively. He brought that energy and effort from the jump and flashed a little bit of improvement as a shooter, though the stats won't show it. I know he had this one pull-up, and it really caught my eye. He had to let him know, put the 3 up after he hit it. But it looked a lot more fluid. I think as long as they have, and it seems like they do based on what I've read and heard from people, have the right idea in terms of what he needs to improve in terms of his footwork, his base, other function of his form and his technique, I think he can become a serviceable shooter in the league. Now, it might be a little bit clunkier at first. This Raptors roster is a little bit interesting in terms of where he's going to fit in from the jump, but I think he figures it out. But yeah, one of the better rookies in Summer League this year. And, statistically, where was he at? Let's look at this real quick. Scotty Barnes. So he averaged 15.5 points, 41% from the field, not great. 27% from 3. Not the best, but you look at the 6.8 rebounds a game, 3.3 assists, and then the thing that really caught my eye and probably a lot of other people's is the 1 steal, 2 blocks through those 4 games. I mean, he was all over the place, guarding a lot of different people. That's what we saw from him. I just like to see his scoring go up just a little bit from what we saw in college, and that was that top 6 worthy type of player that I had him as out there on the court. Down to the last 2 of the second team, we have Cade Cunningham, the number 1 overall pick, coming in on the second team. He was still great, even though he didn't necessarily wow anybody. He's a terrific shooter. That was the thing that stood out the most for me in terms of his game. Just based on the role that he was playing, he still really shined in that role. Like I said, I thought he was a bit misused, but overall, he found a way to affect the game in all facets and work through the obvious kinks being worked out through, with him and Killian, him and Sadiq Bey, Saban Lee. There was a lot going on. They were clearly running a few sets that didn't necessarily bring out the best in their top guys' skill sets. But for me, Cade still performed on the level of number 1 overall pick. Even though it wasn't necessarily flashy, he had that big game against the Knicks where you saw, okay, yeah, he's still that guy. But Summer League, a lot of different variables, a lot of different things going on. They probably wanted to get a different look, at Killian, Saban Lee handling the ball. They probably didn't care about winning or losing games as much as maybe somebody on the outside did. That's not what every team is looking to do in Summer League, but, in general, I think Cade passed his first test. The last person, he made the actual first team. He was one of the better players in Summer League for sure. There's definitely a case to be made for him being on the first team. Peyton Pritchard, outside of that last game, which there's no excuse for, really, especially after everybody on social media is talking about how he scored 92 in a Pro-Am game, which there's no disrespect to those Seattle Hoopers. The Pacific Northwest, that is a hotbed for high-level basketball talent. There are a few places in the entire United States with that much talent in a small area. But a Pro-Am game, come on now. Nobody should ever be scoring 92 points in a game. That's not possible unless it's very limited defense. You showing off for the fans. That's what that's about. But don't come on here bragging about how he's scoring 92 points and he gets back. You put a lot of pressure on him. He gets back and has to play Mr. Off Night, Davion Mitchell, and he scores like 4 points. That's a stark contrast, and it shows you what was really going on there. Not to say that the crossover league or whatever league he was playing in, I think it might have been in Portland, isn't like high level talent. But just the way that people playing is a little bit different. Overall, he was ridiculous, putting up about 16 and nearly 10 assists a game, putting pressure on defense. He's ready to be a consistent backup point guard in the league, I think. Defensively, still has work to do. His ability to shoot it, like I said, get into the paint, his handle, just solid across the board. I know there's a lot of noise in Boston. They just picked up Dennis Schroeder as well. I think out of the other young guards, he's clearly superior. But that wraps it up for the second team. Little recap, go back through. So we've got Chris Duarte, Obi Toppin, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Suggs, Cade Cunningham, Peyton Pritchard, and Scotty Barnes. So that is the second team of the All-Summer League team. Now for the third team, starting it off, we have Patrick Williams. Now, he didn't shoot it great, but I loved his aggression offensively. His assertiveness, just trying to get to his spots, force a couple things. For his offensive development, I think that's important. And just looking back at what he was coming out of Florida State, that six-man guy, the guy that was super raw offensively, but you saw some of those signs on the pull-ups and, things of that nature. The defensive menace that was still there. And I think, going forward with this Chicago Bulls team, you got Lonzo Ball now. You brought in DeMar DeRozan. You got a full year of Vucevic. You got Alex Caruso off the bench. He slides into that 4 spot. Defense first. Got to still work on making that shot more consistent. Picking his spots in between, playing with that bench unit a little bit. I really like where he can go as a player for this team, and I think he's kind of the X factor. Depending on where his game goes this year, being that primary wing defender on a team that, have guys like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. Defense has not been their calling card at any point of their lives. But you slide Patrick Williams in there, being able to guard multiple positions. You have Lonzo Ball, who's an all-league type of defender. But Patrick Williams being that big guy, the most versatile, I think is going to decide at least somewhat of where this team can go, especially on the defensive end. And, if we're talking age-wise, he's about the same age as a lot of these players in this draft. So, talking about growth curve and, potential and everything like that, Patrick Williams has to be talked about just a little bit more if we're talking from that perspective. And who he was as a player just at Florida State, about a year and a half ago. The second player on the third team is Bol Bol from the Denver Nuggets. He's terrific offensively. Still left more to be desired in terms of effort and defense, and that definitely pops up close. I saw him for the first time when he was about 15, still plays the same. Just the energy, we got to get him to make those help side blocks. The dude has an 8-foot wingspan. Just the want, I don't know if it's the want to, if he's just not completely there all the way, but there's a lot there for him as a player, and I just want him to, fully lock in. Kenyon Martin is on the staff now. I saw him getting in his ear a little bit on the bench, and I think that's good for him. Just a lot of talent there. I just want him to fully recognize that and, be able to help this Denver Nuggets team, because I think if he can, put it all together, this Nuggets team has such a weird combination of great talents. I just love to see it. But he makes a third team. Just statistically, before we get off of him, he put up 21.7 points per game, 44% from the field, 40% from the line. Throwing about 7 rebounds, 2.5 block shots. That's what you got from Bol in this summer league in the 3 games that he played. Another Denver Nugget that I didn't see a lot of people talk about, but he definitely deserves more attention for what he did. He put up 20 points and 5 assists on 46-40 splits, and that is Bones Highland out of VCU, their first-round pick this year. I mean, obviously there's much more to come, but for Summer League, he proved himself worthy as a first-round guy, and for a lot of people before that NBA Draft Combine, he wasn't anywhere near that. Really rose his stock, and a guy with his type of passion, if you know anything about his story, it's like impossible. You had to be a weird person to not want to root for him and his fire that he plays with, the tenacity, and just the love for the game that he has. I really liked what he did with the ball handling responsibilities. Marcus Howard was supposed to be there, but the COVID stuff happened and everything. So he was really running the show. Obviously, that's not 100% his strong suit yet. There was some passes he missed, some things that'll come over time at the NBA level, or with more reps, I should say. But, overall, he played very well. A lot of people talk about the mid-major, but he deserves more praise for the amount of uncertainty there was with him coming in. Moving on to the Minnesota Timberwolves, we have Jalen Noel. He's probably the smallest name in here, but he definitely deserves this spot. He was a big reason why the T-Wolves finished with one of the best records. He averaged about 23 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists for Minnesota, and was one half of a duo that was clearly superior to the rest of his team. No disrespect to them. And that other half of the duo was Jaden McDaniels, who was also on this third team. He had a great two-way impact for the Timberwolves, flashed some of that offensive potential that he has, and he showed back in high school when he was about a top 10 recruit. He should be primed to be a key piece in this Timberwolves team next year as a guy who is extremely good defensively. Really just has to focus on knocking down those open threes that will be there off of the attention that guys like Cat, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards attract. But like in similar fashion to like Patrick Williams, he's sort of a guy who can control quite a bit of their ceiling with his defensive ability. And if he takes a leap, even slightly offensively, gets a little bit more comfortable out there, as time progresses, he's going to be able to make a real impact and be a big-time player for them. And it's good to see as a guy who was a late first-round pick and kind of slid after having a little bit underwhelming freshman season at Washington. We're getting down to the home stretch. The second to last person we have on this list is Jalen Smith from the Phoenix Suns. In a perfect world, the Suns actually get a contribution out of their lottery pick last year, especially one that plays in the front court, but for whatever reason that didn't happen for Jalen Smith. But his ability to stretch the floor, handle it a little bit, block shots, and be mobile defensively serve valuable for the Suns in the Summer League. And hopefully he can contribute in some way this year because they'll definitely need it. And for all the talk that was around him, just given that he didn't play and, things like that, I was glad to see him be solid in the Summer League, and he earns the third team spot. He made the first team from the NBA, which I thought was a little surprising, but I liked what he did. The last guy on the All-Summer League third team is Detroit's Luka Garza. Luka Garza performed well. He's a tremendous worker by all accounts, and it showed in his game and in his body. He's still not the best mover, and he's still kind of food in the pick and roll, but the dude plays super hard, and he's really expressive. I like to see that, especially in person, because the camera angles aren't always going to show that. He's someone you'd love to play with, regardless of the amount of minutes that he gets. You'd love to have him as a teammate. I still have my reservations about him as an NBA prospect, but he absolutely deserves this spot. Quick recap of the third team before we get into the full recap. We've got Bol Bol, Patrick Williams, Bones Highland, Jalen Noel, Luka Garza, Jaden McDaniels, and Jalen Smith on the All-Summer League third team. That's going to do it for all of the All-Summer League teams. These are just mine. A few honorable mentions that we'll get into right now that I felt like needed some mention just for their play. First being Paul Reed. He had a tremendous all-around impact. He fell right outside the 13, and I'm not going to argue anybody who has him as high as their first team, to be honest. He was great, had a wild stat line at the end, made big plays. I just went with some other people. That's really all it was. Sharif Cooper, I had to omit Sharif for the last performance, but it really hurt so bad doing it. I tried to find a way to get him on a team. Tried to see if we switch the criteria, he definitely ends up on there. But overall, he's just a really impressive performance. And if we're talking about value, he's number one, given that he was the 48th pick, and most of the other guys are either multi-year players or lottery picks. He really did that. Playmaking on full display. Unbelievable passer. Super quick. And made some threes. So can't wait to see what he does in the future. It seems like, with Trae Young there and just how their roster is constructed this year, he's not going to play a ton. But I feel like he ends up being a major trade chip in the future and gets to work out a little bit more elsewhere in one of these years in the future as Atlanta tries to really contend for a championship after they made the Eastern Conference Finals in a year that nobody expected that. So another person on the honorable mention list is Xavier Tillman. I mean, he was 6th in assists per game with 7 as a center, and he would routinely bring the ball up. Did a great job of running their offense. And on top of that, he put up 15 points a game, 6 boards, and 3.5 total stocks. The defensive communication was top-notch. You got to give him his credit because I didn't see too many people talk about him, but in the 2 games that he played, he was really good. Now, to a few more players who caught my eye and had really good performances, you could throw them on the honorable mention list. There's kind of quite a few, so I just want to go through them, and then we'll get to some of the lower level guys or guys who didn't perform as well as expected, or things of that nature. Some disappointments, a few under the radar type of players, and then we'll go through some of the teams and the rest of the people who we didn't mention already. And then finally we'll get into that Q&A. So give me a minute. I'm about to take a little break and we'll get back to it. All right, so we are back, and now we'll go over some of those other honorable mentions or other standouts that I saw during Summer League. Right now, the first being Alperen Sengun of the Houston Rockets. He had some just really amazing moments. Those were met with some not so great moments, especially in the pick and roll. But overall, you love what you saw from him. And, he competed defensively pretty well on the perimeter. But, there's just going to be some things for him to patch up, especially just projecting towards the NBA when it's Kyrie out there, when it's Dame, when it's Steph, Trae Young. Things will be just a little bit different than if it's Killian Hayes or Saban Lee. But, he was always on time as a help side blocker. He was super active inside on the glass and, putbacks and in the dunker spot and things of that nature. And the footwork is just beautiful to watch in person if you enjoy that part of the game. Yeah, I think he's going to be a really solid player for them. It's going to be interesting to see how their front court kind of shapes out with Christian Wood. You've got Usman there, Sengun. It's not really the greatest defensive fit with Sengun and Christian Wood, but I think they're gonna make it work. And those performances that he had got to be encouraging for the Rockets fans for sure. The next guy is Precious Achiuwa. Now in Toronto, he's in a great space. He put up about 17 and 7 and a block and a steal. Very excited to see how he develops in Toronto. Looks like he's transitioning to being pretty much a full-time 5 at this point, which was something you could kind of see coming at Memphis down the stretch after Wiseman got hurt. The shooting can come along a little bit more. You've got a player who's super versatile, makes a big impact defensively. Still plenty of things he can work on, but he's making strides as a player. And on this Raptors squad, I think he'll help them for sure in the front court next year. In Golden State, you got those two wings, Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, Moses Moody did pretty much what I expected. He knocked down several threes, made a few plays off the bounce. Still got to get better there, but he's a smart defender, took some charges, played some passing lanes, things like that. Just solid across the board. I think he can help Golden State right now, probably better than any of their other young guys. But, we'll see what they do with their rotation. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not really included early on. The number 7 pick, Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, don't let him not making one of those all-summer league teams make you think he played poorly by any means. I mean, he was a business as rookies go. He's still a work in progress everywhere for sure, especially as a shooter. But the dude can play, and physically he's far beyond his years. He performed closer to what he did early in the season in the G League, and this was better competition. If we're giving an award for anybody who got me excited throughout the week, Kuminga is the one. Even though he missed like several of those dunks and those putbacks, it was like the building was about to explode on some of those. It was going to be a top 10 moment, one of the greatest plays in Summer League history. But he's still got a few to go down. Like crossover in Cox Pavilion into the dunk from like the dots off of 2 feet. Dude has the physical tools. It's just gonna be about putting everything else together. Still working on that handle. Not quite the quickest athlete. Doesn't have really the handle that like the Jaylen Brown. That comparison gets thrown out there a lot. Looking towards the future, he has the pieces. The pieces are there for him to become a productive player in the league. Aaron Nesmith, he was one of the best shooters I saw. He had that 33-point explosion game. He looked more comfortable with the ball. Considerably more fluid of an athlete since Vandy. He's got a real ability to be a rotation player for Boston next year and help them space the floor on the wing. Omer Yurtseven of the Miami Heat. He played 3 games, but, pretty much kept up what he did in the California Classic and earned himself that contract. His teammate Max Strus had that wild game winner, shot lights out from deep, 40% on a whopping 11 attempts per game. He looks like somebody who could possibly help the Heat next year in spot minutes as a floor spacer after, a rocky start last year. I apologize if there's any background noise right now. Just trying to get through this as fast as possible. Can't really do anything about it right now. But the next guy that, caught my eye was Isaiah Jackson of the Indiana Pacers. Super athlete, quietly terrific performance in Summer League. He averaged 3 blocks a game. Still pretty raw. By no means a finished product or anything, but I really hope Rick Carlisle gets him some burn in year 1. What he can do defensively is terrific. Great athlete. If the shooting comes along anymore, if he can build on some of that face-up game that he showed at Kentucky, you've got somebody who can be a really high-impact player in the front court. Super versatile, helps you win a lot of games. So I liked what I saw. I liked his start for the Pacers in this Summer League. Somebody who definitely should have got a mention earlier on in this podcast, you have to talk about Malachi Flynn. I mean, he's not really going to pop statistically compared to some of the other guys, and he's not somebody who's super popular or has a big-time name, but he was the glue holding this summer Raptors squad together, and there's a definite case for him to be on one of those all-summer league teams. He's super skilled, has a lot of craftiness to his game. I think he's ready to step into that old role Fred was in several years ago as a steady bench guard for them in year 2. Getting down to the last couple of people here, I think Tyrell Terry was really good in his 2 appearances. That Mavs team was a very rough watch. There was no reason for him to be out there for extended periods, just for them to get absolutely lambasted. He has a shot to be a contributor for them this year. Still might be a year away physically, but his talent level definitely suggests he's going to find his way in the league at some point. Isaac Okoro looks poised to make more of an impact in year 2. He played just 2 games in the Summer League, but averaged 16 in them. Super athlete, super active defensively. Even though Jalen Green kind of got the best of him in their matchup, he still made him work. He was there every time. Really interested to see how he fits into that Cavs young core going forward. All right, now we will get into some under the radar prospects at Summer League and a few who had, maybe they were solid, but had disappointing showings overall, at least based on my expectations and those expectations you have for players who were drafted in the spots that they were. But starting with the under the radar players, we have Armani Brooks from the Houston Rockets. I'm going to go ahead and make a bet and say that he's going to find his way into the league. He's an absolute sniper who I think he might go on like a Troy Daniels type of run to get himself into the league consistent. And if Houston can get him the spot minutes, or another team can, I think that he could turn some heads just with his shooting ability alone. Because everybody needs that at the end of the day. He averaged 17.5 points in his 2 games. Obviously, most of that coming in 1 game. Just a really great performance and a guy that you definitely would want to root for. The next under the radar type of prospect or player is Lamar Stevens of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's coming along really nicely, really stretched his game out quite a bit since college, and I think he'll be a contributor in that wing forward spot in the league at some point. Maybe not consistently in the rotation, but being in the league is a tremendous accomplishment, and I think he's on his way. Killian Tilly from the Memphis Grizzlies. He played 2 games. Looked a lot like that guy that we saw at Gonzaga while healthy, and he made an impact in all facets, can stretch the floor with the best of them. As long as he can do that, I think there's a pathway for him to be a rotational player in the league. And he definitely earned that 2-way contract that they just gave him. At Sacramento, we have Luke King. He was a really popular name coming out of Oregon, but still managed to go undrafted. He's had a winding road, but I think he's ready to be a depth piece at that wing spot for a team at the very least. Still only 22 years old. Played with Bobo at Oregon. Just had a really solid showing, especially that last game. Had his ups and downs, throughout the entire Summer League period in both California and in Vegas. But overall, I liked what he did. The next one, and probably the most effective on this list, is Trent Forrest of the Utah Jazz. I think part of it is just because it is the Utah Jazz and nobody really pays attention to them. And they don't have any marquee prospects at this time, so there hasn't been a lot of eyes there. In terms of the Jazz, he was the most impressive to me. He was getting everyone involved, very much earned that 2-way contract. And he has some NBA promise as a rotational player with his all-around abilities, especially defensively, and his energy that he brings to the game. But yeah, he was impressive for sure. Then the last one is Skylar Mays. He's stuck in between of 2 rookies who were some of those popular players in their high school class, so they've got a lot of eyes already just because of that. And he was a 2nd-round pick out of LSU. In this Summer League, he was really solid across the board, making plays defensively, kind of, sharing those ball handling responsibilities with Sharif. There was a few things that they did rotationally where he would just be out there by himself. And he just kind of filled gaps, He did his thing when he needed to offensively as a scorer. I think he averaged, about 18 a game. 18.8 points a game, 46% from the field. Shot 100% from the line in his 4 games. 3.8 assists a game. Throwing a steal and a half too. He was a really solid all-around player, and he had a few moments last year. He didn't get a ton of time during his rookie season. He's solid. Now to some disappointments. Now, actually, before we start, I want to say that this doesn't mean that they necessarily played bad or they were horrible or anything like that. Just based on my expectations, like we kind of said earlier, just what the baseline should be for them at this point, or how I felt like they should perform in the Summer League. That's what I'm going off of. This doesn't mean that, they're not still on a great trajectory or it's just Summer League. Like, it is what it is. It's just Summer League. But some people who I expected more out of, first being Kyra Lewis Jr., the New Orleans Pelicans. Lottery pick last year. If you watch my videos last year, he was one of my favorites. Super speedy point guard. He did a really great job of distributing and getting others involved, but I felt like, at this point he could have been more assertive offensively. It's possible. Yeah, head coach Willie Green, he asked him to do, other things. He only shot, what'd he shoot? 10 times a game, averaged 11 points. Shot 41% from the field, 27.8% from three. Not great in those 5 games. I just felt like there was more opportunities and chances for him to really assert himself, really show why he was a lottery pick, a lottery guard last year, and he was a little bit underwhelming, so that's why he ends up on this list. Not to say that he can't right the ship a little bit, but they bring in Devontae Graham, they bring in Sato, you still got Josh Hart there. Not that he's exactly a guard or anything, but the minutes are gonna be still. It's gonna be still a work in progress for him to get those minutes, and he's got to earn those. So we'll see what he does from there. The second guy that is on this list is Corey Kispert. He just didn't shoot the ball well, and when he doesn't shoot the ball well, things don't go great for him. Now, he was the 15th pick for a reason, because he's lights out shooter. It's not like these people didn't bring him in for a workout and actually get to see him up close. That informed their decision. When you're alongside Spencer Dinwiddie and Bradley Beal, the opportunities are probably going to be just a little bit easier, but I felt like, I expected a little bit more, especially with the other shooters that performed. You look at a guy like Max Strus, taking 11 attempts a game and doing what he did, shooting at the level that he did. You would have expected Kispert to at least put on like a Trey Murphy type of performance. Defensively, I thought he was decent. He didn't look lost or anything like that, which is good. Definitely not his strong suit, of course, but yeah, that's the reason he ends up here. The next guy is one of my favorites, Trey Mann. He created so much space, so that's encouraging, but he was just anemic as a shooter, and he struggled as a finisher quite a bit. He ended up leaving Summer League early, so I'm not exactly sure what that was about. There's no reason to give up on him. I think it's actually encouraging to see that space creation that he had in college still already translated to much higher level athletes, and just he's got to shoot the ball better. That's just what it is. Maybe there's a slight learning curve in his first year, and in year 2 he comes back and looks a whole bunch better. I'm just trying to look ahead, because that's kind of what happened in college for him. I would hope not. I think he'll be given the freedom to be able to make things happen, make things work in year 1. But yeah, that's why he ends up on this list for Summer League disappointments. His teammate Josh Giddey, just because he got injured, he had he showed the whole thing. This is just from an entertainment or viewer's perspective, so don't think he was bad in the 5 minutes that he played. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. So he had the dunk, right off the bat, off of that, little screen all the way to the rim. He then tried that, kind of step back 3, not working at this level, at this point in his career. But he kind of showed a very well-rounded look at his entire offensive game right now, and I just wish we could have seen that for at least another game, or at least one full game. But yeah, that disappointed me. But it's not like his play was subpar or anything like that. You can't make any judgments off of 300 seconds of basketball. The next guy is Keon Johnson. He did not shoot it well. I got to look up his splits real quick. So while I'm doing that, so we found it. 28.8% from the field, 20% from 3, 57% from the line. The energy was there. Transition play was there. The signs were there. Athleticism, of course. But, there's still a lot of work he's got to do. A little bit disappointed in his overall play. I expected him to be a little bit more effective as a player. But, he'll be a work in progress. I think everybody who watched him at Tennessee knows that. And as long as your expectations don't get too out of control for him, I think they'll be fine. He's still a very good prospect, and somebody I think Clippers fans should be encouraged by. Isaiah Todd of the Wizards, he did not shoot it well either. He shot a total of 25.7% from the field, 23.8% from the 3-point line. Just a lot left to be desired. Defensively, though, he averaged about 2 blocks a game. I thought he was good. I thought he was, active in different spots. A solid plus for him. But, he did not shoot it well in the 3 games that he played. And he looked a little bit out of place. The shot selection issues are still there. But, work in progress as well. For Detroit, you've got Killian Hayes and Saddiq Bey. They were underwhelming for, 2 different reasons. Saddiq was decent. He didn't get a ton of opportunities to really shine, but you see a second year all rookie guy, you expect a little bit more out of him. So for Killian, he averaged 6 points, about 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Not shooting the ball great. He definitely needs to improve there. 18% from 3 is not going to cut it, especially if he moves off the ball at all, a little bit more at all. Puts the ball in, Cade's hands, some of the other ball handlers on this team, even if, Jeremy Grant has the ball. Got to be able to knock down those open ones, the easy ones. Defensively, I liked what he did. I think that can be a very interesting backcourt with him and Cade going forward. But, just being able to get downhill, get past people, turn those corners on the drives. There's a lot of floaters still. He can make them. Like, there is times where he hit those really tough drifting, kind of floater shots. But getting all the way to the rim, getting to the line, Moore only got there 2 times a game, 50% in those 3 games. Just expect a little bit more out of somebody who was a top 10 pick last year, somebody who has had professional experience in the past. The last guy we're going to talk about in this disappointment area is Zeke Naji. Denver's first round pick last year, forward/center. It was a little bit of everything that you wanted to see more from him. He wasn't a 3-point shooter in college. I felt like that's something that he could add to his game, but it's not really there yet. I mean, he could have just been having a really cold streak. He was confident. He shot a lot of threes in one of those games. I think it was against Boston where they got blown out. But 19% from the field overall as a big man, 11% from 3. Didn't really make a big impact in any facet of the game. So he ends up on my sort of disappointment list. Going to be interesting to see what happens with him there, because it was an area of need, especially with Paul Millsap leaving now. But we'll see how he comes along. Now we will transition to sort of the rest of the people, team by team, who we didn't mention yet. There's quite a few, starting with the Charlotte Hornets. Just giving a few thoughts about some of the players on these teams. So they have a lot of prospects on this team. They did not win a game at Summer League. I felt like they were going to be one of the more entertaining ones, and they still were, just in terms of names, people to watch. But basketball-wise, they couldn't put it all together as a team. Starting with, James Bouknight. I thought he did a solid job offensively, had his moments scoring. Took over a little bit down the stretch against San Antonio, I believe. He averaged 17, 45% from the field, 38% from 3. Made some plays for others. I think he averaged just about 4 assists a game, which is good for somebody who that was at least somewhat of a concern. That UConn team didn't. It wasn't the best environment for him to really show that part of his game. They needed him to score the basketball any and every time. And he played, quite a bit off the ball as well. I'm curious to see what happens with his minutes in his first year. They still got Terry Rozier they locked in. I think year 1, he's a bench guy, energy scorer. And we'll see what happens from there. I hope he doesn't get thrown into what Malik Monk got thrown into immediately. And I think he's a little bit further along development-wise than Malik was when he first touched the league. But, I worry just a little bit. He wasn't bad by any means. Don't get me wrong at all. He was, if we're going through the list of rookies, he performed. But, I just looking ahead a little bit. Defensively, I was a little bit disappointed. There was times, now this is just something I noticed in the game, and you wouldn't ever notice this on the broadcast. Maybe you would have. But, like, he was arguing with this ref forever. He kind of just has a nonchalant attitude by nature, which is fine. I think people often want everybody to be like Scotty Barnes, and that's just not how people play the game. When I play, not that I'm like, this top shot or whatever, big shot player, but not a lot of emotions and things like that. Some people are Lonzo Ball, some people are, Kevin Durant, some people are Russell Westbrook. That's just how the game is played. But, he was arguing with his ref, completely lost his man, got back cut for a layup, just had some moments where he just lost his man off ball, didn't look fully engaged defensively at all. Definitely want to see a little bit more from him there, especially in this setting. It's like you want to show all of your game. You got to be locked in at all times. So he looked like he was just kind of floating at times, but still a good player, still somebody who I'm comfortable having in my top 10. The next guy, JT Thor, a lot of great moments, a lot of raw moments. Got to be patient with him. Doubt he really plays too much in his first year. Probably spend some time in the G League, but next year, the year after that, down the line, I think JT Thor, still flashed what made him a really intriguing prospect, and he should continue to build on that, continue to get stronger, continue to get more comfortable as a shooter, and you've got a prospect who should turn some heads. I want to briefly mention LiAngelo Ball. Looked the part, There was a lot of ways this could have gone, and the Hornets coaching staff was confident in him. He performed well, hit some big shots, was active, followed his shot, got his offensive rebound, got some, gimme buckets that way. Hit a buzzer beater. He was, a solid role player. Is he a world beater? Is he somebody who you can really count on to translate into the next level? Not exactly. He doesn't have the highest ceiling. He's kind of limited as a player, but I was happy to see him perform on this stage, and maybe he gets a shot on the Hornets roster as, a shooter. And, you can always use that. The percentages aren't going to show it because he had a pretty bad last game, I believe, but he was a high 30 shooter, good volume, and yeah, that's pretty much what I got to say about Jello. I already talked a little bit more about him and LeVar and seeing all the Ball family on that short little recap I did in the vlog. Wanted to get to Grant Riller. He was a little bit disappointing. I mean, to this point, we really haven't seen much of that guy from the College of Charleston in his career so far. So he shot 39% from the field, 20% from three. Took just 8 shots. I felt like he could have been more aggressive. 5.5 assists a game. Did a decent job of running the show and everything like that. But just played 24 minutes. I don't know. He's kind of in this weird space. He just got signed by Philly on a 2-way, so they at least like him. But as an older guy, he's going to have to really start showing a couple things, especially as a scorer, for me to be more confident in him really cracking that NBA level going forward. But, we'll see. Scotty Lewis was solid. I liked what he did. Averaged 8 points a game, 50% from the field, 60% from 3, 1 attempt. Averaged 3 assists a game. He was making plays out there. Defensively, he's excellent. Athletically, he did what he did. Those physical gifts that he has. As a late second round guy, I believe he was late second round, right? In that range, that's where we thought he would go. He's kind of a project guy, but if he can continue to improve as a shooter, that defense, that athletic ability can help him see the floor pretty quickly. Kai Jones, can't forget about him. Didn't shoot it great from 3. Still going to have to improve there. 16.7%. Shot it great from the line, 85.7%. 9.4 rebounds a game. Got to work on his turnovers. I liked his energy, what he brought to the game. Defensively, flashed that athleticism several times, dunking on people, attacking closeouts, getting to the rack from the three-point line. He's a work in progress, obviously, but I think he's good enough right now to give the Hornets some spot minutes, change of pace, throw a different lineup out there, play with LaMelo Ball, running transition, those type of things. I think he looks a little bit better in those contexts where you can simplify his role a little bit more, playing with NBA type of playmakers, guys who are always in their spots and can help him get to where he needs to go. So I like what he did. It's not like he's going to come in there and average 17 points a game or, throw up three threes a game or anything like that we wouldn't have expected to see. It's going to be more of a slow grind for a prospect like Kai Jones. The next team I feel like we got to talk about is the Orlando Magic. Briefly mentioned Cole Anthony. Probably should have put him on the disappointments list. He was actually pretty bad most of the time. Took a lot of ill-advised shots. Just looked uncomfortable. And it was a big contrast from even like the rhythm that he was in the last part of the NBA season, which is very weird. Take it with a grain of salt at Summer League. Usually means something, usually suggests something if you play like really poorly in Summer League. I want to look up his stats very quickly. So yeah, he shot 28.9% from the field, 30.8% from three. We'll see what happens there. RJ Hampton certainly brought a lot of energy. I liked how he was playing in transition, but he still shot 32% from the field, 44% from three, so that's encouraging. Another guy who you consider the pass and everything. Franz Wagner, Franz, he performed, he played like I thought he would, honestly. You still want to see him be a little bit more aggressive, take advantage of the opportunities that are there. He plays a little timid at times. That's not something that was unfamiliar at Michigan at all. He had those up and down games sometimes where he was, constantly putting pressure on the defense, constantly taking advantage of those open threes and things like that. And then others where he's like, okay, where are you at, Franz? You got to take that shot, or, things like that. What he did in the Summer League for Orlando, I really like the cuts that he had, moving off the ball. That was something that was very appealing for him as a prospect coming in. And he continued to do that, which was good to see. He didn't shoot it well. He shot 15% from three. That's got to change for him. Just 4 games, though, 45% total from the line, 4 rebounds. You throw in about 2 steals a game. I thought he was good defensively. Obviously, you want him to shoot it better first and foremost, take advantage of those opportunities. But playing in the NBA, playing alongside your Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz, the other vets on this team, I think he'll come along and show why he was a top 10 pick. It may not be in the sexy way or the big numbers way, but defense, as long as he's still contributing at a high level there, knocking down 35+% of his threes, I think he'll be on track, making plays for others, still moving off the ball like he can. Some shout outs to Jeff Doughton. I thought he was solid. He played with the Warriors, I believe, before coming to Vegas, and he was with Orlando. Tima, that was a fan favorite. Everybody was screaming every time he played. Blonde hair. I think he's actually a solid stretch big. A lot better than I thought he would be. 60th pick like several years ago. Don't know if he's an NBA player, but he was at least fun to watch. Worth a mention. Now, there are still several teams and players that we probably won't get to. You can leave a comment down below. I'll try to answer those if I don't get to your guy or somebody that you wanted me to mention. But now heading over to the Blazers, we got to talk about Michael Beasley. The one thing that I really liked for Michael Beasley is, funny enough, is his leadership. I saw it up close, so nobody was communicating on that team, and they were getting killed by the Clippers at a certain point of that game. He comes over, starts telling people, yelling at people, we've got to do this, we've got to be in the right spots, things of that nature. Really helpful for a team with a lot of weird young guys and people with limited NBA experience. You have the Kenneth Faried, Emmanuel Mudiay's, but sprinkled in there, you've got CJ Ellaby, Greg Brown, Trenton Watford, George King, several others who haven't really had that experience. So I like seeing that from him, but I'm not 100% sure he didn't go out there and try to score 30 or anything like that. But I don't know that the NBA is really where he's he's best suited at this point. Maybe he's just an end of the bench guy, not really a contributor, but that's my biggest takeaway from him. Antonio Blakeney can score buckets with the best of them. If you've watched him play, you know that he's done this in the summer league before, had great performances, done this in the G League, scored 50 in the G League, I think. I think he's worthy of a roster spot. If I'm in the league and I need some scoring, at least somebody to, bring in on a two-way, somebody to give a shot to. We've seen him perform on the Bulls. Not that team was very good. He's got to get a chance. Cam Thomas goes late first round. He's got to at least be worth a look at this point in his career. But, that's not up to me to decide. I thought Emmanuel Mudiay was really good in terms of distributing the ball for others, getting others involved on this weird team, making plays, talking to the young guys, not trying to do too much. Let's see what he was in assists. I'm pretty sure he was high up on that list. Averaged 7 assists a game, shot 49% from the field, 33% from 3. He was just in the league about, 2 years ago, year and a half ago. I think he's still worthy of a shot. It depends. Certain people have different personalities. You can't fully see that. They expect certain things, but he's an NBA player. Will he end up in the NBA? Who knows? He might be better value, get more money overseas somewhere, but I liked how he played. Greg Brown wasn't playing hardly at all at the beginning. I thought that was kind of strange. He ended up averaging 9 points a game, about 5 rebounds, making an impact defensively, showing off that athleticism, dunking ability. Solid prospect for Portland, especially coming in the second round. Don't know what they're doing with his roster. Don't really know what they were doing with his summer league roster anyways. Given that he spent some time in the G League, he's got a pathway to make an impact for sure. Now to OKC, really quickly, I wanted to shout out Aaron Wiggins and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl for their summer league performances, being in the right spots, making few mistakes. Aaron Wiggins really coming on strong at that first combine, and then getting the invite to the official combine, and then ultimately getting drafted out of Maryland. I think I said this before. I think I said this on the Summer League preview, maybe before then. I think that he can become a full-time NBA player by the end of this season. And Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, just really solid across the board. Not going to wow you athletically or in any one part of his game, but just makes plays for others, makes the game easier. And he'll give his teammates a run for their money in terms of starting at the 4 spot this season, I think. If the shot can come along. I think I actually meant to talk about Emmanuel quickly earlier. I just must have deleted him off my list real quickly, trying to keep things in order. I actually recorded a different version of this podcast before, but I had to delete it, so it probably got lost in translation there. But starting with quickly, he didn't shoot it great, but I really liked what he did and his improvements as a ball handler, his improvements as a passer, just somebody who's so much more comfortable with the ball than he was before. Thinking about what he did at Kentucky as just a spot-up shooter, or even in high school where he was just kind of more of a scorer, and now seeing in the NBA Summer League, averaging nearly 8 assists a game, just 2.4 turnovers, that makes you very quickly look past the 33.7% he shot total from the field. He was really good, and a big reason why the Knicks, played the way that they played. There's a lot going on in the backcourt in New York, so he's probably not going to have the potential role that he had last year in the ability to kind of break out. But somebody gets hurt, somebody gets injured. I think that he's made the necessary improvements to kind of be that backup point guard. I wasn't fully sure that he could be. So that's encouraging if you're a Knicks fan for sure. Deuce McBride, I was very surprised he didn't end up going in the first round, especially just looking at some of the guys who did. I would have thought stock-wise that Quentin Grimes would have been the one that was more available in the second round over Deuce McBride, but that was not the case. going over his stats. 15 a game, 53% from the field, 50% from three. Throwing about 3.5 assists in there. Just what he can do off the pull-up. Stretch his game out a little bit more to the three-point line like you like to see. Defensively, always bringing it, energy there. I noticed when he was playing Cade often, he didn't even try. He just gave the ball up when Deuce would pressure in full court. Just get up the court, get it back in the flow of the offense. So that was interesting, just knowing their Big 12 history. But yeah, he's a good one. Again, Knicks have a tough decision to make. Tibbs, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up playing Deuce just because he just feels like the ultimate Tibbs guy. I mean, the dude played for Bob Huggins at West Virginia. Who's the Tibbs of college basketball? Probably Bob Huggins. Logjam of guards, but wouldn't be surprised if he just ends up, fighting his way into that rotation somehow, just giving them a different look at that spot. Quentin Grimes was really good too. 15 a game as well, 41% from three. Made a few plays for others. I think he's got to get a little bit better at getting to the basket, mixing his game up a little bit more. Doesn't have the greatest handle, you guys know about his game, but being on the wing, he has the potential to help this Knicks team already. I think it's a little bit easier for him to get minutes than Deuce or Quickly, unless they're going to really go with those small three-guard lineups. You already got Fournier in there. You got Kimbo. You got D Rose. Should be interesting to see those. Not saying that Quickly won't play, but like Quickly, Deuce. Are they going to go with a Deuce, Quickly, D Rose lineup? Fournier, Quickly, Deuce, whatever they end up doing. It's going to be interesting to see. And I don't know. I just feel like in a different situation, they might get a little bit more opportunities. But this is how it'll work out. Rokas Jokubaitis didn't play much. He's going back over to Spain. Don't have much to say about him. I thought he was decent. Expected a little bit more just given his professional past, but there was a lot going on. A lot of prospects trying to get their games off. He didn't really have a big role. Didn't play a lot of minutes either. Then you've got Jericho Sims, big lob threat. Athleticism, jumps off the screen. I think he's, down the road. He's got some things to work on, but down the road, he's got the potential to be a backup big in this league. Just for time purposes, I see we're going a little bit over time. We will talk about some of the high-level or highly touted prospects right now, starting with Zaire Williams. There was some ups and downs to his first summer league appearance, but overall I liked it, especially given what he did at Stanford. The talk around him, he flashed that scoring ability several times. Defensively, he's got a lot of work to do, especially if he's going to be guarding guards. I still think that he was solid, but navigating screens, big key for him. Getting stronger, big key for him. It'll only help him add to his versatility, make the game a lot easier. But, in general, for a 10th pick, he was solid, and I like that. Like to see that from him because I wasn't exactly sure what he would end up doing. And he looked a lot better when Desmond Bane and Xavier Tillman were out there, so that's also encouraging. Let's go through this list, find a couple more that we haven't talked about yet. Josh Christopher, thought he had a really good showing all around. Didn't shoot it great. Has some shot selection issues that he'll need to work through, but defensively, loved it. Thought he did a good job of making plays. Liked his pace in the pick and roll. Some of those shots, were makeable. Some of them he shouldn't have been taking at certain points, but yeah, I like him. He's got a real chance to be a solid contributor in the future, and is why he was, sort of that top 20-ish type of prospect. But, the thing that he's got to work on the most for the future, 18% from the line from three, 6.5 attempts. You can't do that in any setting over 5 games. So that's the thing that he's really got to hone in on going forward. Who else we need to talk about? Usman, I talked about him a little bit in the video. Not much there for him to really show. There's a lot of fringe guys that we won't get to. I I'll just name them at the end. I know I probably forgot somebody doing this. I know it's just so much stuff that you have to cover in such a short amount of time that we can't get to everybody that I would like to, and I know some of y'all would like to, but if I did forget somebody, like I said earlier, just go ahead and comment down below. I'll try to respond to a good amount of them. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into some of these last people before we get into the final Q&A of this podcast episode. So Devin Vassell, he played solid, a bit better overall than the box score will show. He went down with the hamstring injury, so he only played 4 total Summer League games, 2 at Vegas. Didn't shoot the ball very well the entire time in Vegas or Utah. But I still think he's poised to make a reasonable jump in year 2. He's a terrific defender. As long as he can get that jumper going consistently, I think that he'll shine next year, especially with a little bit more space, a little bit more wiggle room in year 2 with DeRozan gone. And just a different look as a team overall. Now, Josh Primo, his teammate, he's still a work in progress. I loved, and I mean it, I loved what he did in the pick and roll. He wasn't spectacular, but at 18, we'll definitely take it. And that was the area that he was the most effective. He didn't shoot it well and really struggled to finish at the rim. But overall, I'll take the performance. Do I think he should have gone in the lottery? Probably not. But he was always the one player who I felt had the most untapped potential in the class. And part of it is what our perception of his value was. That is a shock. But if other teams value Primo as, a top 20 type of guy, I don't have a huge issue with San Antonio taking him there. I would have went in a different direction, as you guys know, but not the worst thing in the world. We'll just have to see how he develops over the next couple years, and if he really returns that lottery value that they think that he can. He's in a great organization to do it. Jaden Springer out in Philly, he's going to be really good defensively. Everywhere else, still very much a work in progress. He's got to adjust to the speed of the game. Get more comfortable from deep and with the ball in his hands. But, overall, he had the good flashes offensively that you saw a bit more in high school. Still used his body really well, even against other bigger, stronger, physical, more athletic athletes. Also on Philly, Isaiah Joe. I think he deserves a mention for being one of the best shooters that I saw. He shot 37.5% on 10 attempts, but I promise he's legit, and he could have easily been hitting at a higher rate than that. Santi Aldama surprisingly went 30th overall. That's still the most shocking pick in the draft, in my opinion. He had a few good moments in what was otherwise a really rough outing in Summer League. He's never really played this high level of competition yet, and the Patriot League had such a weird year last year. He shot 17% from the field and 10% from 3 in 4 games total. Definitely not what you want to see from your first round pick of yours. Hopefully he can right the ship, but I don't know. He kind of fell out of my top 60. He was in there at some point. If you guys watched the big boards the whole time, I just had my concerns about him, but it was a big shock that he went 30th overall. But we'll see what he can do in this Memphis organization. Player development over there is one of the best in the league. So finally, BJ Boston, he impressed me sort of in the way that Zaire did. He had kind of an underwhelming freshman year, definitely more underwhelming than even Zaire's. Sometimes he was just completely unplayable at Kentucky, and he steps into what is a much higher level of competition out in the NBA Summer League, a lot more talent. And he was able to contribute at a high level. He looked like he got his energy back. He had some really, really encouraging finishes at the basket. A lot more burst than I felt like we saw at Kentucky, which is a good sign. Maybe points to the fact that he might have been injured during his freshman season there. But yeah, I think that the Clippers could have possibly gotten an absolute steal at 51. And if he's somebody else, I think he turns heads. Like if he's somebody who, just went to some small school, he gets picked with the 51st pick, comes in the Summer League, averages 13 points a game or whatever he did, and makes an impact, then I think he turns heads. But it's BJ Boston, somebody who was a top 5 pick coming out of high school, projected top 5 pick coming out of high school, and, that expectation has kind of followed him ever since. So him not being the next Brandon Ingram, like that's already the bar for him. So it's not the same. But I'm proud of how he played and excited to see how he develops in the future. All right, so I think we're done talking about some of those other marquee guys. I actually wanted to shout out a few performers that we didn't get to. I know we didn't get to. That's Ja'Cory McLaughlin from the Golden State Warriors, Jordan Nwora and Sandro Mamukelashvili on the Bucks. Teo Maledon has some moments. Ayo Dosunmu from the Bulls, Marcus Garrett, and Jean Giroux of the Miami Heat. Jean Giroux just signed with the Indiana Pacers on a two-way, I believe. Yeah, I know I probably forgot somebody. Forgive me if I did, but now let's go ahead and get into the Q&A from your questions last week. The first question comes from Alex. He says, advice for anybody trying to start doing the type of thing you do when it comes to scouting in general, whether that be for YouTube, a website, etc. Now, that's a tough question. I'd say to probably just try to work as hard as possible and learn as much as possible early on. You got to go in to doing that with sort of an open mind and, just being curious, trying to learn something new. I know people, for whatever reason, people think that, if you're at a certain level or you have a certain level of notoriety, you no longer need to learn anymore. But I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly trying to get better, improve what I do, try to find the flaws in what I do and that type of thing. But early on, so I started doing this kind of thing back on Medium. I used to write about the draft a lot. I know I've talked about it before. If you watch my content, you probably heard me say this before. So, but yeah, I used to write a lot about it. Did a lot of learning from other people, their type of styles and how they would just structure things and how they would look at the game. Just kind of pieced all that together. And you find what you can bring that's a little bit different than everybody else, because everybody sees the game differently, or, at least they should. You got to make your own perspective unique. Now, this doesn't mean creating some intricate system that's sort of irrelevant or things that don't really add to the game in any way, but, just try to stay true to yourself and what you bring, as an individual, and put as much time as whatever you want out of this. If you want to be the best, put the most time in. Whatever you want to get out of it, that's what you put in. And it may not pay off in the beginning, I'll tell you that much for sure. Put in a lot of hours that I felt like were just not paying off, but stuck to it. Felt like I had something to bring to the table. If you feel like you have something to bring to the table, then you attack that and do it to the best of your ability. So yeah, just work hard, learn as much as possible, and keep it fresh. I know those sound kind of cliche, but that would be my biggest advice. The other stuff in terms of like specific basketball stuff, that'll take care of itself if you do those other three things. The second question comes from Hudson Squires. He says, where do you get the film you use for the breakdowns? I get this question all the time, and the short answer is everywhere. There's been times in the past where I've had access to Synergy login, which is really quick and easy for certain plays and things that I need. But yeah, like I said, pretty much everywhere. I wish I could tell you that I have this, just service that's accessible by the masses that has every single NCAA game, every single NBA game, Ignite game, high school game, whatever. That is not the case. If I had to give some advice for this, I'd say, just look harder. Make your searches smarter. Look harder again. And then if you can't find it, just ask somebody and they probably, can get it to you. But, just whether it's searching for databases, Reddit, YouTube, full games are out there. If you have to record it yourself, I recorded a good amount of those Ignite games myself, which was kind of a chore. I've done that for other NCAA games in the past, but yeah, just look harder and, figure out how you need to go about getting your footage. All right, so what do we got next? We have a question from John Davis. He says, what are your thoughts on the G League / pro route as opposed to college? I think it really just depends on the player. wherever you feel comfortable, wherever you feel like you're going to get the most growth as a player, that's where you should go. You should not be going to a certain place because you don't feel 100% invested or 100% like this is the place for you. Don't do it. There are pros and cons to each place. College basketball is for the foreseeable future going to have a bigger stage. It's going to have better environments. If you like the college environment, that might be the place for you. If you like a certain coach in college, their system, the way that they run things, that might be for you. If you like professional basketball, higher level of competition, maybe a different level of structure, you might be living on your own. You have that money early on. Do you need to help your family in a certain way? Not that, college, if you're good enough, you might be, getting something under the table. But and with the NLI rules, you're going to be able to have some different endorsement opportunities that you wouldn't even have on the pro level just because of the eyes that are on, these college programs. If you're at Kansas, you're at Duke, you're at Kentucky. If you're at a major metropolitan area market, you're going to have a lot more opportunities than even somebody in the G League who, plays some of their games on ESPN Plus. You kind of don't hear about them as much. They're not as important or prominent as you would be at one of those blue blood schools. But there are pros and cons for the individual. It's going to just depend on what they feel as an individual. For me, I think that the way things are kind of going, I feel like you might be able to start getting a little bit more out of the professional route, as long as the structure there is going to take care of you both on and off the court, bring you along in your journey. Like the Ignite did that last year with those guys. A part of that was because the bubble was kind of a big help for them. It was a sprint of the games. Those happened all in like 2 weeks, which is pretty crazy in hindsight. But I guess it was longer than 2 weeks, but it was a short time. But, it might have been a little bit more difficult if they had to go to Maine or Iowa or wherever else these people play at in the G League. So, it just depends. I want to add this real quick. I forgot about this. If it's international and you're American, that's a whole nother thing that we have to throw into it. LaMelo Ball was able to, kind of adjust pretty quickly because he was in Lithuania at 16. That was a huge adjustment for him. But by the time he was in Australia, he was a much better player at that time. And, Australia's just kind of a better place to be at. But he was able to handle it well. Some others, maybe not. Maybe when you go from Tulsa to Adelaide in Australia, like Terrence Ferguson, it might be a little bit more difficult. Maybe your talent isn't, exactly ready for that. Your game isn't exactly ready for that. Maybe you should have gone to Arizona in college program. But, it's all just going to depend on the person. All right, so appreciate all these questions, by the way. Which player's video did you have the most fun making? That question comes from Tree Man. This is a tough question. I think the first prospect whose video I really enjoyed making this year was Trey Man. I just really like watching him play. The second, definitely Jalen Green. He was electric once he got going in the G League this year. And then I'd probably say Davion Mitchell. One of those three are at the top of my list. And then last year, LaMelo has to be number one. I really enjoyed making that video. That's probably my favorite ever. And Anthony Edwards is definitely in the top 5 as well. So some of these questions are kind of outdated just because I took so long to do this. That's my bad. We'll do another one in the future. A little bit more focused, a little bit easier to find. That you guys will have a better opportunity. But, this last question comes from Ethan. He says, what guy from the second round this year do you think has the best chance to become a star? And to that, I'll say my easy 3 are BJ Boston, Sharif Cooper, and JT Thor. I think those guys, they couldn't be more different in terms of like play styles and everything like that, but they'll have immense skill sets. I think BJ and Sharif have the potential to make GMs look very strange over the next 10 years. We've talked ad nauseum about what they have to do to improve in the future, but there's I'm going to go ahead and just say there's no reason that they should have fell to 48 and 51. That just doesn't make sense. Even in the moment, I'm okay with being wrong if they flame out or for whatever reason, but even on draft night, I said the same thing. You guys watched the big boards and all that. That's nowhere near where I had them pegged. But yeah, star is always kind of lofty, especially for second round guys who might not have the sort of opportunity or the wiggle room to make mistakes as somebody who was taken in the lottery. But there's a lot to like going forward with those three. JT Thor, a lot of potential, and I think he gets to show a little bit more of that in year 2, year 3. But yeah, those are my 3. That's gonna pretty much do it for this podcast episode and this video. So if for some reason you are still here, shout out to you for real. Comment down below if you are still here and you made it all the way through this entire thing. I appreciate you for real. Really appreciate you guys for real for sticking with me and supporting the channel. But that's really going to do it. For those of you listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, be sure to subscribe, download it, like it, share it, do all those things. It's great for the algorithm. It's going to help me be able to bring you guys more podcasts, be able to gain sponsorships, and like the one you saw in the video today, and improve my setup. That's going to be coming later. I talked about that earlier, but all this is going to look so much better possibly by the next episode. Maybe not, maybe the one after that, but it should look a lot better here, better lit. The quality of the videos of me on camera should improve quite a bit. So yeah, I'm excited to do that, and yeah, just look out for more guests. It was a lot of me talking today. I had to get these thoughts off. I know a lot of people were getting mad at my short little recap vlog. I mean, I was just talking about things that, I happened to get a lot of footage of. If I left somebody out, that was just, that's just part of it. I wanted to get that out quickly because I had so much footage to go through and really cipher through, see what was best. I took so many pictures that were really good quality. I just don't have anywhere to put them. I've kind of done some videography, some photography in the past, but what I do here, there's not really a place, an outlet for me to put those. I just spent a lot of days going through that, trying to work myself back into a flow, back into a rhythm in terms of creating content. Because when you're in it, you can't stop. Like when I'm doing the scouting videos, I have a clear vision, clear schedule, know what I'm doing. Videos coming out like that. There are very few people who can, as a one-man team, in a span of just a few months, do what I did consistently on a weekly basis. It's just too hard. It's very difficult to put together. I'm not trying to be cocky or anything. It's just very difficult. You have to have the amount of time that I have in the just aside from the skill and stuff, just editing and putting stuff together. But yeah, so that's gonna do it for this podcast. I appreciate you guys for the support. Like I said, more guests coming very soon, and yeah, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff for me. I'm Keandre, this is Hoop Intellect, and I'm out. That was really corny. We are not doing that. I'm Keandre, this is Hoop Intellect, and I'm out. Who does a double salute? What the